of Do-It-Yourself Girlfriend, where we're going to be building a workbench.
We already built this workbench, and now we're going to build one just like it, except with 3 drawers instead of 2.
So,
Let's get started!
The first step is to build the cabinet base. So first you'll want to cut the 2 2x4s into 4 pieces, 2 of them at 21 inches and 2 of them at 36 inches. For this step, you'll want to use corner clamps to secure the pieces together. The shorter 21-inch pieces will be the sides, and then the longer 36-inch pieces will be the front and back. Before screwing anything together, you'll want to make sure that all the sides are square and level. Once you have everything all leveled out, screw the 4 pieces together using 2.5-inch wood screws. The next step is to secure the casters to the cabinet base. We are measuring and placing each caster 1/4 of an inch away from the edge. Figure out which of the 36-inch sides you would like to be the front, and then make sure you attach 2 lockable casters to the front and 2 regular casters to the back. Once you have figured out your placement and made your markings, you can secure the casters into place using 2.5-inch wood screws. The next step is to cut the vertical side posts. You'll want to cut 4 2x4s the specific height needed for your preference, allowing for the height of the casters. For this workbench, we're going to cut the vertical 2x4s at 29.5 inches. Use clamps to attach the vertical 2x4s to the base frame. Make sure that you're placing the verticals on top of the casters and you're aligning the 4-inch side of the 2x4 verticals to the 21-inch sides of the base frame. Make sure that each vertical is level before securing them into place. Once your vertical pieces are level and ready to go, you can secure 3 2.5-inch wood screws into each vertical to attach it to the base frame. Now that all 4 of the verticals are in place, you can secure the 4th screw into each one of the casters.
Woo!
Good.
The next step is to create the top frame using the same exact steps and measurements used to create the base frame. Once you have your top frame built, use clamps to attach the top frame to the 4 2x4 verticals. It's smart to keep a 24-inch level handy throughout this project to continuously check to make sure that each piece is level. Once your clamps are in place and all the sides are level, you can first create pilot holes and then attach 3 2.5-inch wood screws into each vertical, connecting it to the top frame. The next step is to measure, cut, and attach the 1/2-inch plywood base sides and back. For this project, the measurements are 36 inches wide and 24 inches long for the base. Because of the vertical support posts, you'll need to measure and cut out the corners with a jigsaw so that the base will fit around the vertical posts. Before cutting out the corners, you'll need to use a table saw to cut the bottom support base according to the measurements. And like I said, for our project, it is 36 inches wide by 24 inches long. After that, you can use a jigsaw to cut out the corners. The next step is to take measurements for those missing pieces on the corner, and then you can use a piece of scrap wood and replicate the measurements and then just cut them out with the jigsaw. Next, you'll want to use wood glue to attach the base and the corners to the frame. And then you can hold them into place using wood clamps, and after that you can secure all the pieces together using a brad nail gun. Now we need to cut and attach the sides and the back. For this project, the back will be 36 by 32.875 inches, and the 2 side pieces will each be 22.125 by 32.875 inches. Once again, you'll want to use a table saw to cut the plywood according to your measurements, and after that, you can secure the back and the sides using wood glue, clamps, and a brad nail gun. The next step is to build the drawers. You'll need to decide how many drawers you need and how deep they need to be. We are going to have 2 shorter drawers that are the exact same size and then 1 deeper drawer. For this workbench, we are using 1x4s to create the 2 short drawers. So we are going to make the drawers 29 inches wide and 21 inches in length. So for both drawers, we will need to cut the 1x4s into 4 29-inch pieces and 4 21-inch pieces. So the front and back of each drawer are your 29-inch pieces and the sides are your 21-inch pieces. You'll want to use corner clamps and a large clamp to secure all your pieces into place. Make sure that all your corners are perfectly square and level before you start drilling. Once you're all squared up, you can pre-drill holes into each corner and then drill 2.5-inch wood screws into the holes. Then repeat these same steps for your other short drawer. For the deep drawer, we're going to repeat the same process and dimensions as the short drawers. The only difference is we're going to use 1x8 boards instead of 1x4s. The next step is to build the base for the drawers, and you'll follow this same process for each one of the drawers. You'll need to measure and cut 4 1x2 support boards for the bottom of each drawer. You'll want to evenly place the support pieces across the bottom of the drawer, and then you'll want to use wood glue and a brad nail gun to secure the supports to the bottom sides of the drawer. Next, you'll want to measure the inside of the drawer and use a table saw to cut 1/8-inch plywood for the bottom of each drawer according to the measurements. Next, you'll want to apply wood glue to the supports and then staple the plywood bottom to the supports using 1/2-inch staples. It's important to make sure that the staples actually go into the supports. The next step is to measure and attach the drawer slides. You'll want to attach the slides to the 2x4 in the base workbench by following the manufacturer's directions. Then you'll need to attach the slides to the side of each of the drawers, and once again, make sure to follow the manufacturer's directions. Make sure that your drawers fit and that they slide properly. To give your workbench a finished look, you'll want to add facings to the drawers. To do this, measure and cut 1x2-inch wood for facing between each drawer according to length and width needed. To attach the facing, lay the cut wood on the floor exactly how it will be attached to the workbench frame. You'll want to make sure the drawer is centered with the facing, and if you need help to determine this, you can gently clamp it together and then verify the length and width is correct by holding it up to the workbench. Once positioned correctly, use wood screws to attach the facing from the inside of the drawer. The next step is to attach the cabinet facing that goes in between the drawers. To do this, we are using 1x2 wood boards, and we're basically going to frame the top, bottom, sides, and in between the drawers. So you'll need to find those measurements and then cut the 1x2s according to the length and width needed. Once you have your pieces cut, lay the wood on the floor exactly how it will be attached to the workbench frame. Using wood glue, glue the top and bottom horizontal facing to the 2 vertical facings, making sure that all the edges are flush. Once positioned correctly, staple joints with 1/2-inch staples from the back side of the facing. Once you have the cabinet facing assembled, use clamps to hold it into place, and then you can secure it to the 2x4s using wood glue and brad nails. This next step is totally optional, but to spice it up a little more, you can add a trim to the facing. To add the trim, you'll need to measure the length and height of the drawer facing, and then replicate your measurements on a 1/4 inch by 2-inch poplar trim. When cutting the pieces, you'll need to set the miter saw at a 45-degree angle and cut one end 45 degrees to the right and the other end 45 degrees to the left for each piece. Once you have all your pieces cut, you can apply wood glue to the trim pieces and use clamps to hold the pieces to the drawers until the glue is dry. If there are any small gaps or spaces in between the trim pieces, you'll want to use stainable or paintable wood filler to fill in these gaps. And you'll also want to fill in all countersunk screws with the stainable wood fill. Once the wood filler is dry, it's time to sand. And you'll want to sand all the workbench drawers with 110 grit sandpaper until they're smooth, and then you'll switch to 220 grit sandpaper to finish. Once you're done sanding, make sure to wipe off any remaining sawdust. Once you're done sanding, the next step is to paint. You'll want to paint all drawers inside and out and allow the paint to dry according to the directions. Once the paint is completely dry, then you'll want to lightly sand down any rough spots on the workbench. And we use steel wool instead of sandpaper to avoid scratching the paint. If your workbench needs a second coat, then apply a second coat and repeat these steps. The next step is to attach drawer handles according to the manufacturer's directions. Based on the handle you chose, position the handle on the face of the drawers and mark the screw holes. Then you can pre-drill the holes for screws. After you pre-drill, you can attach the drawer handles by drilling in screws from the back of the drawer facing. You'll want to pull on the drawer handle several times to make sure that it's secure. The last step is to attach the countertop. To do that, you'll need to measure the length of the workbench and add 4 inches for overhang on the right and left sides. For this workbench, we used a kitchen countertop, so it was already 25 inches wide. If you are not using a pre-cut countertop, measure the width you need and cut the countertop accordingly. 24 to 26 inches is usually the width of a standard workbench, but it can be adjusted based on preference. We are using a handheld saw to cut the countertop. Be sure to use all your safety gear and safety standards because cutting a countertop can be tricky and dangerous. You'll want to attach 2-inch angle brackets to the sides of the workbench using 1-inch screws in order to support the weight of the countertop. Once your angle brackets are secure, you'll want to line the countertop up evenly with the workbench, and then from the underneath of the workbench, you will secure the countertop to the brackets using 1-inch screws. The very last step is to cover the raw edges of the countertop with the countertop edging. To do this, you'll measure the sides of the raw edges and cut the countertop edging, adding 1 inch to that measurement. Attach the edging according to the manufacturer's directions and then trim off any excess with a box cutter. If you need to sand down any rough edges, make sure to file in one direction, otherwise the edging could detach. And after that, the workbench is finished. All there is left to do is add tools. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy building your own workbench.